Good day, everyone. This is Teacher Cherry. In this video, we will solve quadratic equations by factoring. Let's have a review. From our previous lesson, we know that the simplest way or method of solving quadratic equation is by extracting the square roots. Pero, hindi lahat ng quadratic equation ay pwedeng isolve gamit ang extracting square root. Pwede lang gamitin ang extracting the square roots kapag ang form ay ax square equals c at square of ax plus c equals d. Kapag ang ating quadratic equation ay nasa standard form na ax square plus bx plus c equals 0, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin ang extracting square roots dahil meron siyang linear term na bx. As you can see, in this form, wala tayong linear term. Kahit dito sa another form, walang linear term. Kapag may linear term, gagamit tayo ng ibang method para ma-solve ang quadratic equation. Isa sa mga method na pwede nating gamitin ay ang solving quadratic equations by factoring. So, si factoring ang isa sa pwede nating gamitin na method para ma-solve ang quadratic equation. May 5 steps sa solving quadratic equations by factoring. These are the steps in solving quadratic equations by factoring. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4, and Step 5. Let us have examples for us to understand the steps. Let us have example 1. Solve 4x squared plus 8x equals 0 by factoring. Step 1 is to transform the given equation into a standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The given equation is 4x squared plus 8x equals 0. This is now in standard form, so no need to transform. Let's proceed to step 2. Factor the quadratic expression on the left side of the equation. We will factor 4x squared plus 8x. Ito yung nasa left side ng equation. To get the factors, we will get the greatest common factor of 4x squared and 8x. Ang greatest common factor ng 4 at 8 ay 4. Ang greatest common factor ng x squared at x is x. Kung ano yung may mas mababang exponent, yun ang kukunin na variable. So, we have the first factor is 4x. To find the other factors, i-divide natin si 4x squared sa first factor which is 4x. And then, divide 8x by the first factor which is 4x. And then, we simplify. We now have 4x, the first factor. 4x squared divided by 4x is equal to x plus 8x divided by 4x is 2 equals 0. And then for the step 3, apply zero product property by equating the two factors of quadratic equation to 0. These are the two factors, so i-equate natin siya to 0. The first one is 4x. So, 4x equals 0. And then, the other factor is x plus 2 i-equate natin siya sa 0. And then step 4, find the values of the variable by solving the two equations. So, our variable is x, so we will solve for x. As you can see, in our first equation, meron tayong numerical coefficient na 4. I-divide natin both sides by 4. We now have 4x over 4 equals 0 over 4. Simplify, we now have 4x divided by 4 is x. 4x divided by 4, makakancel. 4x divided by 4 is x. Paano nangyari yon? 4 divided by 4 is equal to 1. So, 1 times x is x. And then 0 divided by 4 is 0. This is the first factor of our equation. To find the second factor, so we solve for x in x plus 2 equals 0. To solve that, we will apply the subtraction property of equality. Subtract 2 to both sides of the equation. And then we simplify, we now have x equals negative 2. X equals negative 2 is now the second solution or roots. So we have x equals 0 for the first root or solution, x equals negative 2 for the second root or solution. Let us have step 5, check your answers. So this is the checking part. For the first factor, x equals 0, isa-substitute natin si 0 sa original equation. 4x squared plus 8x equals 0. We now have 4 times x is 0, so we have 0 squared, plus 8 times x, which is 0, kaya meron tayong times 0, equals 0. Simplify, 0 squared is 0, times 4 is 0. 8 times 0 is 0, equals 0. Then we simplify, 0 plus 0 is 0, equals 0. They are equal, so that is true. For the second factor, x equals negative 2, substitute negative 2 to the original equation, 4x squared plus 8x equals 0. We now have 4 times x is negative 2, so we have negative 2 squared, plus 8, x is negative 2, so multiply negative 2 equals 0. We simplify, square of negative 2 is 4, and then we copy this 4. Then, positive 8 times negative 2 is equal to negative 16 equals 0. Simplify, 4 times 4 is 16, minus 16 equals 0. 16 minus 16 is equal to 0, equals 0. They are equal, so that is true. Therefore, our answer, the two solutions or roots of the equation 4x squared plus 8x equals 10 are 0 or negative 2. Let us have example 2. Find the solutions of the equation x squared plus 9x equals negative 8 by factoring. Our given equation is x squared plus 9x equals negative 8. First, we will transform this equation to its standard form. We will add 8 to both sides of the equation. And then, we will simplify. We now have x squared plus 9x plus 8 equals 0. After that, we will factor x squared plus 9x plus 8. The factors are x plus 1 and x plus 8. Paano natin nakuha yung factors? Una, kukunin natin ang factors ni x squared. Ang factors ni x squared ay x and x. After that, we will get the factors of 8 na ang sum ay 9. Ano ba yung dalawang numbers na pag pinag-multiply mo ang product ay 8 at kapag pinag-add mo naman ang sum ay 9? Okay. Ang factors ng 8 na may sum na 9 ay 1 and 8. Let us check. 1 times 8 equals 8. 1 plus 8 equals 9. So, the product of 1 and 8 is 8 yung last term. Ang sum ni 1 and 8 ay 9. So, yun yung B. Okay? And then, after that, i-apply natin yung zero product property. I-equate natin yung mga factor into 0. First is x plus 1. And then, we equate it to 0. After equating to 0, we will solve for the variable. Ang variable natin dito ay x. So, we will solve for x. To do that, we will apply the subtraction property of equality. We will subtract 1 to both sides of the equation. And then simplify. We now have x equals negative 1. This is now the first solution of the equation. The second factor is x plus 8. We will now equate it to 0. We now have x plus 8 equals 0. And then solve for x. We subtract 8 to both sides of the equation. And then we simplify. We now have x equals negative 8. Negative 8 is the second solution of the equation. Let us check if the solutions are correct. Let's do the checking. The first factor is negative 1. Substitute negative 1 to the original equation. X squared plus 9x equals negative 8. Our x is negative 1. Therefore, we have negative 1 squared plus 9 times x is negative 1 equals negative 8. Then simplify. The square of negative 1 is positive 1. Negative times negative is positive. Then multiply positive 9 times negative 1 is negative 9 equals negative 8. 1 minus 9 is negative 8 equals negative 8. So, this is equal. So, that is true. Next factor is negative 8. Substitute to the original equation. We now have x is negative 8. So, we have negative 8 squared plus 9 times x. X is negative 8 equals negative 8. Simplify. Negative 8 squared is 64. Positive 9 times negative 8 is negative 72 equals negative 8. 64 minus 72 is negative 8 equals negative 8. They are equal, therefore, that is true. Negative 1 and negative 8 satisfy the original equation. Therefore, the two solutions or roots of the equation x squared plus 9x equals negative 8 are negative 1 or negative